Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report from the new moon in Leo, which takes place on the 1st of August at 4:11 a.m. here in the UK. It translates it's 3:11 a.m. Universal Time. But obviously, depending on where in the world you are, some people are actually experiencing this new moon on the 31st of July. I'll be outlining the key kind of themes of the new moon along with certain aspects that add certain flavours to it. But before I do that, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It's a tool to give us guidance as to understand what's unfolding around us collectively and what kind of lessons are there for us to be learning at this time, i.e. spiritual lessons. And it's also helps us see where the opportunities for growth are. But in order for anything to actually change, it requires that we participate in the process, that we learn to go with the flow of the astrology rather than trying to fight against it. And it's also about recognising the importance of making sure our actions are guided by wisdom and not just egoic impulses, so that we don't create karma for ourselves. Now, in terms of the new moon in Leo, the new moon in Leo is essentially, it gives us an opportunity to make a choice in life. I mean, this is a choice we can make every single day, don't get me wrong. This isn't like this is the only opportunity you'll ever get kind of thing. No, we can kind of choose every day, but the core choice of Leo is, do we operate from the ego, or do we try to express ourselves through the ego through playing a variety of different roles and wearing a variety of different masks? Or do we express our authentic self through being who we are, without worrying about any roles that we play around us? And do we recognise that the creative energy flowing through us that we make things with isn't our own energy? We're just like an instrument for that energy to be made manifest in the world. And it's also about, do we operate from love or do we operate from fear? So a key litmus test, if you like, during that we can gauge which level that we're operating at the moment, is to see how we respond internally to meeting someone who's already being who they are, being authentic and embracing the joys of life and embracing their creativity. Do we feel like it's a cause celebration? Do we feel a sense of joy in seeing the person shining their light? Or do we feel insecure and jealous about it? Because jealousy and pride are the low-level energies of Leo that we need to be kind of mindful of during this time. And it's an opportunity for us to see, are we engaging in these behaviours? An opportunity to kind of check ourselves and see, okay, are we feeling envy or jealousy for someone else's happiness? Are we feeling insecure about it and thinking, or why do they get to feel joyful and I don't? In which case we're operating from the ego, and we need to work on changing that and work on going within ourselves and changing it, because it's no good trying to bring the people down who are shining the light. It's not actually going to make us feel any better in the long run, because all we've done is diminish the amount of light in the world. Instead, it's looking at, okay, what is that person doing what is it about that person that is missing at the moment from self that we can learn? What do we need to unlearn within ourselves in order to be or radiate the same qualities as the other person? Now, it's not about trying to be the other person at all. We can only ever be ourselves. We can never be someone that we're not. So it's not about trying to copy other people or do exactly the same thing as others. It's more about being inspired by the people and learning to recognise, okay, where do we have self-imposed limitations to our creativity? Where do we have a limited perception of who we are that we need to let go of, because it's stopping us from being our best selves? It's our shadow at the moment is in control. It's preventing us from, or sabotaging our efforts to be our best selves. And it's about doing that self-inquiry, for trying to figure out why we're doing that. And more often than not, it's just because we're so used to being someone who we think we are that we've forgotten who we really are. That's often part of the spiritual journey anyway, so it's something for us all to go through, or for us all to learn. But if we want to experience love and joy in our lives, then we have to give that to ourselves. We have to cultivate that within us. We can't expect other people to do it for us. That's just irresponsible at the end of the day. But it's about looking at, okay, how can we go within ourselves and connect with that kind of love that is the underpinning energy behind creativity, behind joy, behind celebrating life, and the capacity to not take ourselves too seriously. How can we lighten the hell up and stop taking ourselves so seriously? How can we kind of bring our pride under control, so that we're not too proud to ask for help when we need it, we're not too proud to receive love that's freely offered to us, and that we don't become arrogant and think we're better than everyone else, but in the process need other people's validation in the process. So the new moon in Leo brings us an opportunity to change this if we're not already doing it. It's good. It's generally best that we try and push towards a higher level anyway, but this new moon essentially represents an opportunity to transform our sense of self. This is down to the aspects from Chiron and Uranus. Now, the exact aspects the peak of the aspects have already been, but they're still in place. So we have the trine between the Sun in Leo and Chiron in Aries. Chiron is retrograde at the moment, and Uranus will be turning retrograde in a few days, so it's slowing right down. But the trine between the Sun and Chiron is an opportunity for us to recognise where we identify with the wounded self, i.e. the ego or the person that we create, and where do we need to step back from that identification and recognise that actually those wounds are just conditioning. They're not actually valid. They don't actually define us anymore. It's only if we believe that, or our sense of self-identity is confined to the ego, that we have this perception of being wounded in the first place. Otherwise, we don't have that fear of expressing ourselves. We don't really have that same fear to take action and embark on new creative projects. We have that kind of courage to say, you know what, don't necessarily know how this is going to unfold in the long run, but I'm prepared to take action. I'm prepared to try something new, even if I don't really know how it's going to look like in the end. I've got a vague idea, but I'm not going to get hung up on the ins and outs of the process. I'm not going to wait to have all the right information to do it. I'm just going to give it a go. And Uranus in Taurus square to the new moon is an opportunity to transform our values. It's an opportunity to also transform a sense of creativity and our relationship with the world around us. Taurus is all about the natural world. It's about being completely grounded in the physical body. It's about being grounded in nature, so it's getting back in touch with the organic cycles of nature, and it's remembering the wisdom of patience and going with the flow, of not trying to force things to happen at the wrong time. And it's about remembering that we can achieve so much more when we work together and we share the resources that we have, rather than everyone trying to buy new stuff. Because in a sense, the Leo, or one of the key differences between a high manifestation Leo and low, is whether we're creating or we're consuming. Because the ego is all about trying to gain a sense of security, it's all about consumption, whereas our authentic self is about the joy of creation, of doing something or creating something just for the joy and pleasure of it. And then later on, once we've got started or had the courage to start that creative process, we can then worry about refining it and turning it into something that's even better, that can then be of service or of useful contribution to other people. We have to get that creative energy flowing in the first place, and it's about this aspect reminds us to let go of that materialistic mindset, to try and pull back from the materialistic paradigm that we've been raised in, and instead look at how can we create with the resources that we already have, and how can we do things as communities. How can we learn to recognise that we're all interconnected, that we're all interdependent to some extent, and the more that we share what we have and the more we contribute to a collective part, the more can be achieved at a community level that will benefit everyone and not just a few individuals at the expense of the many. And it's also about reconnecting with the earth. It's about that simple joy of being in touch with nature, of feeling that nurturing energy that nature naturally possesses, and just spending time with it whenever we can. Because for me personally, if I forget to do that, if I forget to spend time in nature and remember to work with the natural cycles rather than trying to make things happen at the wrong time, it just creates stress, it creates anxiety, the ego is well and truly in control, and in effect the heart starts to shut down. But when I do that grounding, and when I do remember that spiritual practice of remembering not to identify with the ego, of taking that step back and observing myself, because this is something that I have to learn anyway. It's part of my life path, as it were, based on my own personal astrology. But if we can learn to kind of relax, to go with the flow, not take ourselves too seriously, and to remember the communities that we're a part of, remember to share what we have, because joy comes in sharing. You can't really keep joy just yourself. It's something that naturally spreads. So it's remembering the joy of sharing what we have again, of not worrying about if we contribute something to the pot, well, are we going to have less than what we had before? It's understanding that when we are creative, when we share what we have, we end up getting more back through the natural flow of that gift mindset, of that abundance, which creates a virtuous cycle rather than this vicious cycle. So it's remembering to be who we are, to radiate that love and creativity and embrace that playful nature, and to not take ourselves so seriously in life. I mean, at the end of the day, what's the point in life if everything's a chore? What's the point in doing anything if there's no joy to be had in doing it? It's about having that gratitude for life, of having that joy for that flow of energy that comes through us. It's expressing that creative spark within us, but recognizing that creativity is not our own. We're just a conduit for that creativity to express itself. And it's having that, or experiencing that joy of creating, where we don't worry about how other people see it. We don't really care whether it's good or bad. We don't apply external standards of perfection to it. We just enjoy it, and through that creative process, which is almost always messy to begin with, we can then worry about refinement later on. But it's time to just relax, to go with the flow, to embrace joy and play in life, embrace love, to learn to love ourselves unconditionally so we don't require validation from other people. And it's also to give that love freely to one another. So it's that freely giving and receiving of love through being our authentic selves and radiating the kind of energy that encourages other people to do the same, but respecting their freedom of choice to decide whether they're going to be operating from the ego or the true self. And from there, just enjoy life, enjoy the journey, and celebrating life, celebrating one another's accomplishments, revel in the sharing of each other's light and contributing to the light in the world, and just remembering that joy of being, to just feel that peace and gratitude within us, that joy of being alive, of being able to partake in the miracle of creation, because life is a miracle. It is joy. It can be joyful if we get out of our heads, let go of pride and let go of our self-importance, and just chill out and appreciate one another again if we've forgotten to do that. So I hope that's a useful guide for the new moon in Leo. There's a fair bit to take on board there, but the main thing to remember is the new moon presents us with the opportunity to either operate from the ego self, in which case we've chosen fear as the main authority in life, or if we choose to be our authentic self and radiate love and light to the world, in which case we've chosen love as the motivation for life, and to participate in life, to take the central role in our own personal lives and learn to love life rather than dreading it or rather than seeing it as a load of drudgery. We'll have the opportunity, we'll have the capacity to change or make choices as to how we do things, and every choice we have can either be made from love or fear, and those are the two primary choices in life. Certainly, if we choose fear, we end up getting stuck in the ego, everything becomes drudgery, we become tired, exhausted, we burn out. If we choose our true self and we choose love over fear, then life becomes joyful, it becomes a celebration, it becomes art or creativity in motion, and we learn to celebrate life and to share our joy with one another, to share that love, that mercy, that kindness, and to make those the benchmarks of, or make those our core characteristics, so that we operate from the noble qualities that stem from our soul rather than the shadow qualities coming from the ego. So I hope this useful guide for the new moon may bring you many blessings and opportunities to transform your life. Take care and be blessed.